There are 3 core ways that top-level and good graphic designers think like. And you really do not want to ignore these 3 different ways of thinking as a graphic designer, because if you do try and brush them off or avoid them, you're not going to get very far in this industry. And here's the first thing that you might already have experienced. A client might come to you saying, we need a website that feels fresh, or we want a logo that stands out but still feels professional. Now this is where your problem-solving mindset should be kicking in. And this is the first core way of thinking as a designer. And if you don't fully understand or know that, don't worry, because right now we're going to look at some real life examples. So Airbnb, the world-renowned travel platform, it was struggling with the same issue. Their old logo just wasn't cutting it, and it looked like a mattress brand, and this confused its target audience. The problem they faced was not just designing something quote-unquote pretty, but crafting a logo that communicated a complex message, and that was belonging. How do you visually communicate belonging? When the designers began working on this, they were probably asking themselves, how do we make something that doesn't just look cool, but actually evokes a message? This is the type of problem solving that goes beyond aesthetics, and that's the challenge we, as designers, have to rise up to. So the designers started to break down what Airbnb really was about. It wasn't just about homes or renting properties. It was about creating a space where anyone from anywhere in the world could feel like they belong. This led them to develop the simple yet iconic A symbol, which is more than just an initial. The design is actually multi-layered. The A shape doubles as a location pin, where you are basically, a heart, which is belonging or love, and even an abstract person in some opinions. Each piece was intentionally designed to represent Airbnb's brand values and solve the communication issue. So even if you're doubting your ability to communicate visually, remember that problem solving is just a process. Airbnb's logo didn't just magically happen. It took research, trial, error, and a deep understanding of the message to get there. And that's what we, as designers, are here to do. Solve problems in a creative and meaningful way.
For this approach, you need to identify the problem within the brief for the project, and then hash out some potential solutions for the problem or problems. Now, if you can do this, you will have access to concepts really quickly, and let me show you how that actually looks. Now, to demonstrate how problem sprints work, check out this logo here. Now, I'm sure only a handful of people know what this logo is, or shall I say, was. So this logo was actually the design for Uber pre-2018. And if we look at this logo, what problems can we identify on the design itself? Firstly, it looks more like an app icon and it's not very iconic. And yeah, the irony in that wording. But it has a lot of detail and it would become kind of lost at smaller scales. It also looks a bit generic and a bit outdated, to be honest. Uber really wanted to become an identified brand away from just an app. And so we have those problems. And to create design ideas and concepts, we just try and fix those problems. In Uber's case, they removed color and stripped things back to black and white for simplicity, modernity, and sleekness. They also removed all of the chaotic detail and opted for a typographic logo, again for simplicity and brand recognition. So for this first approach, simply identify problems and then create fixes for those problems, and that will reveal concepts and ideas for your project.
So don't for a single second overlook or ignore the power of design thinking in terms of problem solving. Visually speaking, it's such a core fundamental aspect of being a graphic designer. Now, I'm a busy man and a busy designer, and I never learned how to code. So one way that I managed to actually create websites or marketing materials that actually look good is by using Framer. One thing that helps me with saving time is the library of 700 plus templates, which gives us a lot of starting options. So for example, this 3D template is looking pretty dope. Now, like I said, with Framer, everything is just so quick and so easy, even if you're someone like myself who just doesn't want to mess around with code. And I can make social links here way more interesting compared to the static appearance they have now. And I can actually come in and add a hover effect here under the effects panel. There are some settings to play around with, but if you come up and hit play here, look how smooth and how neat this animation looks after the fact. But if you really want to draw attention to your CTAs, I like the loop effect, which constantly plays out on your site. And this will surely drive those clicks. Now, there are so many more features, more tools, and different ways to create stunning websites with Framer. And if you do want to make those cool websites, those effective websites for Framer, do click the link down below and check out Framer today. Let me ask you something. Have you ever looked at a design and felt something stir inside you? Perhaps joy, nostalgia, maybe even sadness? That emotional impact, it isn't some kind of fluke or accident, not by a long shot. Let's take an example we're all familiar with, and that is Coca-Cola. Now, I don't really care about the brand or the product, so don't get caught up in those narratives. We're just looking at the brand through the lens of a designer on the video. Why does their advertising always evoke feelings of happiness, celebration, and warmth? It's not just the iconic red color, although that does help. It's the whole visual package. The typography is playful and friendly, evoking a sense of nostalgia and tradition. The imagery of people smiling, sharing moments together, this reinforces that Coca-Cola is about the experience and togetherness. It's not just a drink in their mind. That's because the design team who put this brand identity together actually used emotional impacts via storytelling in a graphic design visual way. And it is very, very important. Color has an incredible ability to influence people's mood. Think about movie posters. Horror films typically use dark, moody colors with sharp contrasts to create suspense and fear, while romantic comedies often use warm, inviting tones to set a light-hearted, happier mood. As designers, we need to ask ourselves, what emotions do we want to evoke? And how can we use color, typography, and imagery to achieve that? When you approach a project, start by asking, what emotional response am I aiming for here? Dive deep into the psychology of color, explore how typography choices can change the tone of a message, and pick imagery that reinforces the emotion you want to evoke. That's how you become not just a designer, but a storyteller. If you've ever doubted your ability to connect to an audience emotionally with your designs, know that it's actually a learnable skill. Look at every piece of design as an opportunity to tell a story and spark an emotional connection. And that's the magic of visual storytelling in graphic design. And when you do actually tap into it, your designs won't just speak, they will move people. Now let's be honest here. Have you ever just slapped some color onto your projects, applied a couple of fonts and said, okay, that's the end, that's the project finished? It's easy to do, especially when deadlines loom just over on the horizon. But here's the hard truth. Without intention behind every design element, your work can easily fall flat. And if that happens, you risk missing the mark entirely with your audience and your client. Every good designer thinks in terms of every design choice must have a purpose. Maybe you felt that doubt creep in. Am I just making this look good, or is there more to it? That uncertainty can weigh heavy on your mind as a designer. But here's the key thing. Every single element in your design should have a purpose. Nothing should be random. No color should be applied just because you like that color, and no line should be drawn without considering how that impacts the final message of the design. Think about the Nike logo. It's more than just a swoosh, right? It's sleek, it's fast, and it's dynamic. The curved, forward-moving shape reinforces the brand's message of athletics, speed, and victory. There's purpose in that simple design right there. The logo isn't just visually appealing, it actually kind of tells a story if you think about it. Now, you might be wondering, how do I design with that kind of intention behind it? What does it even mean to have purpose in every single element? Well, that curiosity is exactly what's going to push you forward as a designer. Start asking questions like, why this color? What does this symbolize? Why use this shape? How does it direct the eye or support the brand's message? Why should I use this typeface? Does it feel bold, delicate, traditional, or modern? Asking all these questions will help you further in your projects. And take color, for example. If you're designing a brand identity for a children's toy company, you wouldn't use muted grays or blacks. You'd lean towards bright, playful hues because those colors evoke energy, excitement, and fun. they speak to the audience, and that's why intentional design is all about communication. Every decision you make in the design process should be geared towards a purpose. And once you start designing with intention, everything just becomes clearer. You'll feel more confident in your choices, and your designs will start to resonate more deeply with your audiences. And don't get it twisted, you're not designing for your client, you are designing for your client's audience. And so remember, it's not just about making things look pretty, it's about making them matter. When you design with purpose, every element becomes a piece of the puzzle, working together to deliver the right message. Now, if you can actually approach design projects and graphic design in general, when considering these 3 different ways of thinking, not only are you going to see your work improve, but you will be miles ahead of most designers out there. While most people just consume almost useless reels about a Photoshop tool, you will have gained some deep and advanced knowledge of how to approach actual design projects at the level of top-tier agencies. But yeah, don't forget that. And if you want to continue your education as a graphic designer today, just click one of those videos on screen. But until next time, guys, design your future today. Peace.